Hello class, and welcome to this Super Mario 64 walkthrough right here on Video Games 101 by way of Let's Play with Briggins. I'm your instructor, Professor Briggins, and when we started this channel years ago, this has always been on the list of games I wanted to cover. I bought this game as a kid in 1996, day one when it came out, absolute classic. I went down to Toys R Us, had my pre-sale ticket. Anyone remember those? Any other kids of the 90s out there? Turned those in, and you know, you had that whatever deposit you made ahead of time to get that ticket, then you brought it there to reserve it, and showed up day one. I think it was September 29th or the 30th, 1996. Saved up all my money as a kid and bought this game, and just an absolute classic, released when my Nintendo fandom was at its peak. But plenty of time to talk about that, how great this game is. Fluff has so many facts today, interesting facts about this game, things I never knew, little hacks you can do on different stages. This one's going to be a lot of fun, but in terms of difficulty, Super Mario 64 has that just right difficulty, if you ask me, of a 5 out of 10, which can equate on the frustration scale to throwing your controller across the room, probably when you're going for those 100 coins in one of the stages, and then you fall off the stage right at the last second before you can get that star. We're going to be showing you the 120 star path in this game, how to get every single one of those 120 stars to get the full completionist run here and unlock that little Easter egg at the end, the Yoshi appearance. Sorry, spoiler alert I suppose, but this is going to be fun. This is going to be a long one, so let's run the intro now and get into this Super Mario 64 walkthrough right here on Video Games 101. As fun as it would be to mess with Mario's face right here at the top, we've got 120 stars to collect. So let's get into the game now, start a new game. I love this opening music right here, just on the select a game screen right here from Koji Kondo. The entire soundtrack is excellent work from Mr. Kondo, but we'll talk about that as well. I'm going to start a new game here in the first file, Mario A, get some context.
Dear Mario, please come to the castle.
I was expecting the usual rescue the princess trope. We've since retired that list, by the way. We will not be showing that anymore, but still give it a mention every now and then. Some lovely voice work there for Princess Peach, recorded by Leslie Swan. Fluff will talk about that a little bit later as well, but as Lakitu, our cameraman, floats in here. I have a love-hate relationship with Lakitu as our cameraman. He, the camera is probably one of the few things that you can nitpick about in this game. And it's not constant. I mean, if you know how to make it work for you, then you can make it work for you, I suppose, to finish that thought. But before we head into the castle, let's take a quick look at the controls for Super Mario 64. Again, very complicated compared to most of the games we cover on this channel, but I just want to highlight a couple of my favorite moves here. First, we have the side somersault. This move can be done by simply running in a direction and then quickly reversing on the stick the direction you're going, and then doing a jump right there. This gives you the height equivalent of a double jump, but you don't need to have the real estate for a double jump. So, and then the other move I really like is the long jump, which you can do by running, then holding Z, which is on the back side of the controller, and then while you're holding Z, tapping A immediately after. It allows Mario to cover more terrain a little bit faster, but as we get some sort of fourth wall breaking with the Lakitu brothers, like we're doing a documentary on Mario or something here, but let's enter the castle now, and immediately we get a message to get the heck out of here. We're going to choose to ignore that for the purposes of this class and talk to Toad instead right here by hitting B next to him. There's a few instances of Toad in this castle where he'll actually give you a star, so we'll obviously prioritize talking to him in those cases, but when you're ready, head to this first star door on the left, the only door we can access to access a new world for the most part, which doesn't require any existing stars. So every time we enter a level, before we do that, we'll get to choose which star we're going to pursue with a little clue as to what that entails. If we haven't gotten any stars yet, it'll just default on the next one in order, or in this case, it's fighting the boss at the top of the summit. So that's going to be the order generally we're going to be going in and covering how to get every star here in this Super Mario 64 walkthrough. Just the order which the game recommends. As much as we can. There's a couple exceptions where that's not the case, but you can see we're using the long jump quite a bit already to avoid that chain chomp right there. It's just a fun way of getting around the levels in this game, in my experience. You cover more ground, it goes faster, and it's just fun to do, what can I say? Alright, so we're trying to get to the top of this summit here, or reach the summit here in this first stage to get our first star. Mine the cannonballs, and there's a hidden little warp area if you pop in here and just kind of hold still or walk slowly at the back of that little alcove. And this just kind of warps us up. Now with tips on taking down this first boss here in Super Mario 64, let's go to our resident boss expert, Gary.
It's Scary Gary's Boss Beaters.
Alright, so in Super Mario 64, the magic number is usually 3 for taking down most bosses, and Big Bob-Omb is no exception. Just run behind their back, pick them up with the attack button, and throw them. Just make sure you're throwing them more into the center of the plateau here. Throw him off the side, and he'll accuse you of cheating. You'll have to start over, basically, so don't do that. Also, stay away from the sides yourself. You don't want to get picked up and thrown off the side and have to start over again as well. So repeat this strategy, though. You can use one of those reverse jumps to get over him a little quicklier. I made up a new word here in Video Games 101. Because he will, after you do a throw-in, move around very quickly. This won't last very long, but keep up this strategy. 3 hits, you'll take him down.
Thank you very much, Gary. That third throw, as Gary mentioned, will take him down, and we've gotten our first of 120 stars here in Super Mario 64. We got our work cut out for us, don't we? And we're treated to some nice camera work there, nice cinematography with that zoom out by way of Leica 2. So every time you grab a star, you can save your game and continue, save and quit. So they're telling us we can now access other doors here in the castle. A lot of the doors are locked and have a certain requisite number of stars we need to collect before we can unlock them. But again, we're just going to move left to right, gather as many stars in this first world as possible before we move on. So we've just unlocked, by talking to the Bob-Omb here, the pink Bob-Ombs, they control the cannon. And now we can hop into that to access other areas here on this map. Cannon travel. Kind of fun. Just as it was in, Secret Aquarium, another game we did a recent class on here on Video Games 101. So Koopa challenges us to a race right here. If you use the cannon, he considers it cheating, so we're just gonna stick with our long jumps right here. Again, you can see the extra speed we're getting, covering a lot more ground. Once again, just getting past that chomp right there. You can use the warp, that's not considered cheating for whatever reason. It won't save you that much time, honestly. It's not the most just practical warp. You'd think if they were going to construct a warp, which took us to the top of the summit, or as close as you can get basically, without being on top, then maybe they would put it a little closer to the bottom or something, but we're going to take it just the same. Warp up ahead, and then use another one of these side somersaults to quickly get to the top. And then we have a little flag stick. Just gotta get close to it. Kind of like the old Super Mario Brothers and Super Mario World, like we had in those games. I guess that was more of a hitting the tape at a certain point, but... So now we just gotta wait. Showing disdain for our opponent's abilities, just busting out some moves here. Crawling around. The ultimate disrespect. If we leave Mario untouched long enough, or we don't touch the controller, then he'll eventually lay down and fall asleep. And leave it even longer than that, he'll start dreaming about pastas. He'll talk about ravioli and spaghetti and things like that. They have a good time with their Italian stereotypes. courtesy of Charles Martinet. We'll talk about that. Plenty of time. We're just getting into this as we are 1/60th through our star count. So now shoot to the island in the sky. We just unlocked this cannon travel in the last star, so let's actually make use of it now and go to that island in the sky over there on the left. Can't reach it via that first cannon, but thankfully there's another one which unlocks simultaneously when we talk to that Bob-Omb right there. So the sweet spot to aim is right about there, just kind of above that little corner of the clouds. And then you will, alright, well, overshot it just a little bit, so just a little bit lower than that. And then thankfully there is another cannon right here. Arguably the most cannons of any stage in Super Mario World. So this one's a little easier. Just catch yourself there, stop the momentum. We don't have the red switch trigger just yet, but hit this block right here. Careful not to fall off. Grab it with the move of your choice. I always like to show off a little bit when we enter the paintings or grab one of the stars. But our third star there, 1/40th the way through this game. I promise I will stop very soon. Doing the math right there, but gonna head back in. So we're knocking out these first stars very quickly, and that always comes to a grinding halt when it comes to getting the red coins. Tell you, video game developers love their fetch quests. They're collecting items in stages. It's not quite as bad as Tony Hawk here, and it's not nearly as bad as collecting 100 coins, which we'll have to do for that final star for each stage. We'll talk about that though when we get to it. In just a moment, we're going to collect those once we have all the other stars we can currently collect here in this first world. And you can grab the shell from this Koopa Troopa here by punching them or jumping on their back and then riding around. It's fun. Take any damage and we'll lose that shell instantly, so just keep that in mind. If we hit any walls, we'll lose it instantly. But there is a red coin up here, up this grade, which we wouldn't be able to run up. It's too steep eventually, so the shell's a nice way to knock that out. But as we're going around trying to get the remaining of the red coins, the 8 red coins to get this next star, let's take a look at the Brigsnotes for this Super Mario 64 walkthrough here on Video Games 101. First, mentioned it, but follow this guide for 120 stars, the completionist run here in Super Mario 64. We're going to be showing you the most efficient route for getting every single star in this game, with a couple small exceptions like missing the missing the tree or the jump, the shot in that last collecting the star right there. Number 2, keep the camera zoomed out for better control. I mentioned this in the intro, but yeah, the camera work isn't fantastic. Again, this was Nintendo's first fully 3D game right here, so you have to expect some of that. It's a little rough, so I like to keep that camera zoomed out whenever possible. You can use the left and right C buttons, as I mentioned, to shift it left and right, assuming Leica 2 has room to do that. If you're up against a wall, that won't be the case. You can always hit R to go to the Koopa cam, where you get right up and close on Mario's shoulder there. I don't like to use this unless the camera work is really bad, but depends on the conditions ultimately. So we can't get this next star, so we're going to get the 6th star overall instead, because we need the first switch before we can do that. And this one's easy to get from this Chomp over here. Just do 3 ground pounds by jumping and hitting Z on top of his little post when he's not paying attention. Just bait him into making his move and then do some stomps. And number 3, use the water surface to refill your health. We'll talk about that when we actually have some water on one of these stages. And lastly, when you're doing a big fall, you can dive at the last minute by hitting B, assuming you haven't already done it, to kind of avoid or mitigate your fall damage. So, nice way to do that for a fall that would otherwise cost you a lot of health or kill you outright. So we're going to have to come back for that 5th star, but now we're going to show you how to get 100 coins here on Bob-Omb Battlefield, fittingly with a star wipe on that edit right there. We're going to speed this up because this can be a bit of a slog getting 100 coins, certainly with some stages more than others. So the number total coins which you can get on any one stage will vary from stage to stage. Here on Bob-Omb Battlefield, the max you can get is roughly 146. So to get the max number of coins, this comes from a combination of getting all the red coins. You know, that's 16 coins right there. Those are still available. Defeating enemies, obviously. Finding coins that are just sitting there ready for the taking. Finding them in boxes. We need the wing cap to help us knock out the 100 for this one. So I'm going to grab that, which we'll get in our timeline in just a moment. This is a good time to mention that the 100th coin that you pick up is where the star will trigger. So make sure you don't leave that final coin you pick up in a precarious spot to make that star hard to get. But while we're doing this, let's bring in Blaze to talk about the items we can pick up in Mario 64.
Alright, let's talk about the items you'll find out and about in Super Mario 64, starting with the 3 types and colors of coins. First, the gold coin. Each of these restores 1 unit of your health. As the professors mentioned and shown, if you collect 100 of these, you'll earn yourself a star for that world. If you clear one of the courses for a world with 50 of these, you'll earn yourself an extra life. Moving on to the red coins, also relevant for getting 1 of the stars for each of the world. Collect all 8. Each of these on its own is worth 2 individual gold coins as well, and refills your health likewise. And the blue coins, usually get these by hitting a switch first, one of those blue coin boxes. These are temporary, so make sure you grab them. This refills a lot more health than the gold and the red coins, and each of these is worth 5 gold coins. So very important when you're trying to go for 100 coins on certain stages, necessary in some cases. Moving on, we have the 1-Up mushroom. I think if you ever played a Mario game, you know this is worth an extra life. Some of these come to you, others you have to chase down. Then you have the spinning heart. You'll find maybe 1 of these per world, give or take, but the faster you run through this, the more health it restores for you. Of course, this is a bit redundant considering the heart never disappears, so you just hit it again and again if it doesn't top you off. And then finally, the Koopa Troopa shell, probably the rarest of all items in this game. If you see one of the relatively rare Koopa Troopas, at least by most Super Mario game standards, you can attack it to knock it out of its shell and hop on it, ride around and kill most enemies with 1 hit, glide over water, or even go up steep hills you wouldn't otherwise be able to climb.
Thank you very much, Blaze. Excellent overview on some of the items here in Super Mario 64. But we move on now to Whomp's Fortress. Similarly to Bob-Omb Battlefield, by the first star we get is the product of taking down the boss at the top of the fortress here. Have to be careful as this is the first of many worlds here in Super Mario 64, which allows you to fall off the world and lose a life, either by jumping over the railing there at the end or dropping into one of those pits, which we're retracting in and out. These piranha plants, you can only take them down by sneaking up on them, because if they're alive, most of your attacks, they will not do anything to them, so we just need to sneak up and give it a nice punch right there. And they'll give us one of those very nice 5-spot blue coins, which Blaze mentioned. You can actually do a long jump right there, but trying to be careful. Probably get one going on the opposite side here. I just love it. It makes the entire world of this game just feel like a little parkour paradise for Mario. The controls really are fantastic for this game, but alright, with tips on taking down Whomp, let's go back to Gary.
Boss beaters.
Alright, Whomp, you can get right up on it, just start running towards it. At the base of the Whomp, and as he goes down to smash you, you'll just run underneath him, then do one of those reverse jumps and do a ground pound on its back. Really anywhere works, as long as you're not on the very edge. Repeat this 2 more times, you'll take him down.
Thank you very much, Gary. Yeah, that even works on the mini Whomps. When they try to do that move to you, if you get right up on them, they kind of squish Mario a little bit, but it's just an aesthetic effect. It just makes him look a little shrunk for a second. No damage is taken. You can still quickly jump on their backs and take them down, but there we go. So you'll find as you select the star from the menu when you first go to a world for the first time, or before you enter a world, like we have right here, You can select which star you want to focus on, and in some cases, like this versus the last star, this will affect the layout, the look of the stage. So this time we're going to have an extra tower that wasn't there at the top of the fortress, which we'll use to collect another star. And just... Alright. Didn't stick the landing right there. You can see there's the cannon access right there. Let's head back up and try that again, shall we? Sort of one move we didn't mention as part of the controls, which is just sort of sidling up against a wall. If you're on a very narrow pathway, you can just kind of hug the wall and Mario will do a special kind of animation, which we haven't had to see just yet. If you hit the bottom of this tower right here, you can find an extra life. There are a lot of extra lives strewn all about this game. You won't be hurting for lives when all is said and done, I'm willing to wager. You can see when we jumped ahead, we were probably in the 40s or 50s. Go all around this, and then take this up, and grab yourself the second star here for Whomp's Fortress. Got our first block of 7 stars, obviously not all on one stage, so every world, the max total is 7 stars, so 7 times the 15 worlds, just to do the math right there, that's 105 stars. Obviously our numbers won't reflect that in real time. We're not going to have 14 stars at the end of this one because again we're putting off all the coin stars until late in the game just because it's just a slog, like I said. And not nearly as much to know about getting all those coin stars, but to get this star, blasting off into the wild blue, we're going to unlock the cannon right here. And then accuracy is key right here. You want to aim right above the brick. We want to hit right there. Thankfully, we don't need to worry about concussions or anything with Mario. I mean, we probably should, given the number of hard hits into very solid objects like brick walls he takes in this game, but must have a lot of padding in that hat. I don't know. Maybe share that technology with the rest of us, Mario. So we got 8 stars. We can actually face Bowser for the first time right now that we've got our 8th star, but again, we're going to push that off until we've taken all of the worlds out, maxed them out, all the stars that we can get in this first floor of the castle for the most part. So here to get the red coins in Whomp's Fortress. Always a slog, not as bad as the 100 coins. I feel like I'll say that a lot, but first one is right there. The second one is on top of this Whomp's head right here. Thwomp's head. Not to be confused with the Whomp. Thwomps are a little deeper. Not emotionally necessarily, but in terms of just their design. Their physical amount of space which they take up. They may be deeper emotionally, I don't know. Don't want to speak for them. Alright, so not the worst thing that we fell down here, because there's another one up here which we can get if we use one of our long jumps to get a little momentum there. Another reason to use the long jumps. We just use this to get ourselves back up. You can see we passed one right there. There's one on that floating island. Another on that arm which goes out over here. You can also drop in on those piranha plants, assuming they don't see you coming. But a little difficult to do, admittedly. One of the few times you'll probably see that done. Alright, so this is number 6. And then we got 2 more waiting for us up top here. And Koji Kondo on the mark. One of those themes which just gets you pumped up, gets you energized, puts a smile on my face as we give this a couple kicks and well, don't do that. That does not put a smile on my face. That flattens my face against the ground here. the mini Whomps do their own version of the ground pound. Just, yeah, kind of always like to keep that camera where we have the most room to operate. For the most part, keeping it behind Mario so that obviously the movement makes a bit more sense. So unlike the 100 coins, the red coin star always appears in the same dedicated spot. And there we go. Couple more to knock out relatively quickly. This is Fall into the Caged Island. This is an easy one if you know where to let go. So this is another one which is has a specific thing which is unique based on this particular star. So if you want the owl to appear, maybe when you're trying to farm for some coins a little bit later, you can choose that one. But yeah, climb that tree, and then when he's flying around, just jump and then let go right about there. He'll slowly lose altitude over time, but I much prefer gauging it that way than hoping to get the timing just right to get him to drop into that caged island or make that drop from the owl a little more manageable. This one's one of my favorites in the game just because it's so simple. Referenced this earlier, but just run up here, drop into the cannon. Time in class, what has it been, like 15 seconds so far? Aim for this far corner of the wall. And that one is well hidden, if I do say so myself. And just approach it from the top to collect that. And just like a lot of my favorite stars in this game, this one takes probably 30 seconds to collect. Just be very careful. Might want to turn the camera a little bit and just slide into it. And there we go. And now, as per usual, we're going to head back in later on in the game with another star wipe, mind you, and collect 100 coins for Whomp's Fortress. There are 141 all total to be found. So follow along as we bring in Fluff for the first time today to share our first Fluff fact about Super Mario 64.
I mentioned this in our class on Super Mario World, but the idea of Mario being able to ride a creature goes all the way back to the development of the first Super Mario Bros. In the mid-80s. When it was determined that it would be too difficult to program this on the NES, the idea was held back until Yoshi made his debut in Super Mario World for the SNES in 1990. While Yoshi doesn't exist in this game in the same capacity, there was talk amongst the developers of Mario being able to ride a horse during development. The idea was ultimately shelved and repurposed for The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time in the form of Link's trusty steed, Epona.
Thank you, Fluff. So we chose the Fall into the Caged Island star right there just so we could have access to our owl friend Hoot. Make getting around a little bit easier there at the start especially, but once you have 10 or more stars and you come back to this central chamber here, if you press up C and look into the light, you'll get to where we can unlock the wing cap. Just gotta hit that giant red switch that's located at the bottom, right on that tower there. So in addition to the 105 stars, which you'll get 15, or 7 per through each of the 15 different worlds in the game, there are 15 extra secret stars, castle stars, which you can find. Some from Toad, others by collecting red coins on each of these switch levels right here. So we have to get all of the 8 red coins. Not too difficult in this first one. They start you off with plenty of speed. It's just about kind of going in the track which they have set up from top to bottom there. Once you have them all, just fly right into that star, and they'll kick you out, unfortunately. So we can't do both in the same run, but up to 12 now, so let's head right back inside, and this time we're going straight for that switch. And we're gonna hit this just so we have access now to the wing cap, and pretty straightforward, but Blaze,
Alright, once you hit that red switch, the red blocks are now filled in and accessible in some worlds to contain a wing cap, which allows Mario to fly either by launching out of a cannon or using a triple jump.
Thank you very much, Blaze. So now that we have the wing cap, we can go back to Bob-Omb Battlefield and get that final one of the stars, which we could not get before because it does require that particular upgrade right there. So let's shoot over in this direction once again, and then use this cannon to get up to the tower, once again, the floating island, I should say. And now that we've hit that switch, we'll find that the wing cap block is intact. Let's see if I can actually hit it this time without overshooting it. I think I learned my lesson. There we go. Just caught it, but that's the sweet spot. This hat is temporary, mind you, so it lasts a good probably 40 seconds or so. We have plenty of time with it. But the goal here is to fly through each of these rings, and it's a little difficult. We need to use the cannon for some of them. You can just kind of launch yourself off with a triple jump to take advantage of the flight without it. The reason I like to do that for a couple of them is just because we come in so hot with the cannon, so much velocity, that it's difficult to really have control over Mario to get through those second couple of the sets of rings after that initial one. But there you go. Once you go through all 5, doesn't have to be in order or anything. They're not sadists at Nintendo, Shigeru and crew. And you can just come down here and pick that up. And now we've gotten all the stars here in Bob-Omb Battlefield. Save for that coin star in this timeline, obviously, but, you know, we showed you how to do that. It'll all catch up and make sense by the very end, but now it's time to move on to the third world, going in order. Come to the right side of this first floor. We only need a paltry 3 stars to unlock this door right here. And before we actually head into the stage itself, you'll find that if you go through this kind of hidden little area, that little window up top, and you can talk to Toad here. He doesn't have any stars to give us quite yet. But do a double jump or do one of those side flips right there, and we get to enjoy this composition from Koji Kondo for the first time. This one's very simple. Just collect the 8 red coins just as we did in the red cap world just a moment ago. You can hold down A to do the paddle with your feet, which is slower. I prefer to do the breaststroke right here, so just get a nice amount of timing right there and tap that A button. I found this stage very calming as a kid, I have to say. After a tough day at school, just fire this up, look out those windows for some lovely coloring with the sky or whatever that's meant to be, wherever we are right now. Just lovely. The fish. Thought this was amazing when I first played this in 1996. Still holds up if you ask me. I have a soft spot for the early days of 3-dimensional animation. And you'll see if you try going in this one here, get a 1-up if nothing else. And now we can finally head in to the third world, dive into the third world here. Jolly Roger Bay. And we need to go into the sunken ship for this first one. In all subsequent stars, that ship is going to be floating, so this is the only time which we can come down here and get this one. So the tricky part about this is getting the eel to come out of the ship. I had trouble figuring this out when I was a kid. I couldn't figure out what triggered this. I find if you just swim very close to the eel and then swim away, just swim back to the surface of the water. You can see right there, this is our first water level where you can see that mechanic we mentioned in the Brigsnotes, that your air and your health are share the same meter essentially. I'm not sure if that was an oversight by Nintendo, but you can see the eel has vacated the ship and we can now swim inside the opening right here. But it works out to be a nice little hack to refill your health on demand. If you need some extra health/air, every time you open one of these chests, you can grab one of those oxygen bubbles there to give yourself a nice chunk back. But we want to hit the one in the back first, and then facing the one in the back, the front right, then the front left, and then finally the one in the middle. And as soon as we hit the one in the middle, we want to start swimming as quick as possible up to the opposite side and stay at the water's surface just to minimize the amount of platforming we have to do. See if we can't make this. Just kind of hop out and grab on at least. There we go. Otherwise, it's a little slippery and makes it more difficult on yourself than it needs to be. But there you go. The first star for the very relaxing Jolly Roger Bay right here in Super Mario 64 as we plundered the sunken ship. I'm curious, class, what's your favorite piece of music from this game, I believe? So we have the Eel Come Out and Play star right here. I think this may be my favorite from the entire game. Certainly the most relaxing of the entire soundtrack, although I'm a fan of the outro music. Well, I'm a fan of all the music in this game, but... So there is a star right here which we cannot access unless we have the next or another one of the special move caps. So to get the eel to come out and play, just kind of swim around it. The getting hit by the eel is entirely optional. I don't recommend it necessarily, but it takes a giant chunk out of your health, as you can see, your health/oxygen. So you can grab some coins to get back in the game. And once that eel comes out, you'll find a star affixed to its tail. So be careful. It's safer to come in from behind it than the sides necessarily, rather than cutting it off, as more times than not I'll find that I fly into the side of the tail, which, as you can see, does a lot of damage. Probably more damage than anything else, or as much damage as any other enemy in this game. But 2 quick stars back to back. I like Jolly Roger Bay. All these are relatively easy to grab. Treasure of the Ocean Cave. So we're going to go deeper than we have gone to this point, class, here in Jolly Roger Bay, going all the way down to that eel area. And then there was an opening in the rock wall. And that's going to be our next destination. Don't worry, you'll have plenty of oxygen to get through. Now you'll see the eel on this, and every subsequent star is just free swimming around down here, so just keep that in mind. Difficult to catch those one-ups under the water right there, but you'll find a lot of the coin circles will trigger those extra lives. I like to do the long jumps here to bait these things which are going to fall these columns so that we're clear out of the way before they can fall on top of us. But go back, left, right, and then front is the order for the treasure in the cave down here. Just like that, we've gotten half of the normal stars here in Jolly Roger Bay. And the treasure of the Ocean Cave. Still have the dreaded red star one coming up. Red coins to get the star. Red coins on the ship, which is now floating. So half of the coins are on that ship or above water. The other half are in these shells down here. These clampies, as they're called, feels very Donkey Kong Country as far as enemy names go, if you ask me. Careful not to swim too close until they've opened up, otherwise they will cause some damage to Mario. There's a shallow clampy right here who has another red coin. And the last one, beneath the surface of the water, is all the way down. You'd actually generally see it before you can see the animation for the clampy. It renders in first. I think these enemies actually inspired some of the enemies in Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. The ones that kind of play halfway between a dog and a shell, which come at you. You gotta use the hook shot on them. Another game which we hope to cover in time here on Video Games 101. Probably one which will go well beyond the maximum upload time for YouTube, so that's something we'll have to figure out, but plenty of longer games which are well worth the effort of devoting to a Class 2 here on this channel, and you gotta be a little bit higher if you're gonna grab onto one of these. You can climb these, but yeah, you need a little more in terms of height before you can start to shimmy up those. It's actually necessary to grab one of the subsequent stars here in this stage. But climb this one right here and you'll find yourself another red coin. I prefer to use the cannon to get to the ship. It's a lot easier than stomping down on a switch which creates some timed blocks which you can use to access the ship, which we'll show when we go for the 100 coins. But so to get it, just aim right about here, pretty much parallel with the top of the animation of that wall. You can see right there, and that'll give you just enough lift to perfectly land right here on the ship. Mind that little block that's going back and forth, but the remaining red coins are right here on top of the ship. And there we go, not too bad compared to some of the other ones. You could maybe see that chest right there in the distance on its own little platform right next to that column which we just shot past when we were going to get to the ship right there. That's the one we're going to pursue right now because the final of the 6 stars requires another hat which we don't have access to yet. So this is another one which I love quite a bit because it's so easy. Just requires a little bit of precision. So this time we're not going to aim quite as high. Aim a little bit lower and just above this left pillar right here, and you'll grab right on the very top. Be careful as you jump off right there. If you are already at the very top and you kind of push up so that you can get that jump, then sometimes Mario will do that kind of handstand on top, and that's not what you want. That can kind of mess up your timing and cause you to accidentally jump off. So just something to keep in mind as we star wipe and go back to Fluff as we get the 100 coins for Jolly Roger Bay. But Fluff, how about another Fluff fact?
The Nintendo 64 obviously gets its name from its 64-bit processor, something which Nintendo made a strong point of advertising because most of its peers at the time, like PlayStation, were 32-bit. And without knowing too much about the technical side of things, most people knew that 64 was more than 32. All that said, and despite the Nintendo 64's 64-bit processor, much of the system's library actually ran in 32-bit because that yielded a more responsive, faster performance. Not to mention smaller file sizes, and Super Mario 64 is no exception. So, in actuality, Super Mario 64 at 32 is only twice the bits of Super Mario World 16, which likewise was twice that of the NES's Super Mario Bros. 8 bits. It probably goes without saying, but Super Mario 64 was nonetheless named as such as a marketing ploy because again, or at best to refer to the system it was on, rather than the capabilities of the game itself because again, most folks realize 64 is bigger than 32.
Thank you, Fluff. I've always prided myself on that knowledge. Make sure you are ready to pick up every single one of those blue coins before you hit that switch because you will need every single one of those to get the 100 coins here in Jolly Roger Bay. I believe the max number of coins you can get is 104, so if you miss even just one of those blue coins, which are worth 5 apiece, then yeah, you cannot access the coin star. And I think the remaining 4 are just around that column right there, so we've shown literally every single coin you can get there on Jolly Roger Bay, but one more world which we can access from this central hub right here. Just requires 3 stars to get in. By the way, I should mention, there are updated versions of this game, like the DS version. It requires different numbers for a lot of these things, so while most of the tips of this Super Mario 64 walkthrough will apply to that, certain things won't, and they've changed some things, added some things to that, so just something to mention. This is the original Nintendo 64 version that we're working with here. Enter here for the first star. But here we are in another very fun level. This is Cool Mountain right here. And you can grab some coins right off the start by entering this door right here and taking this down. Be careful to stay on the path right here, because if you fall off, then that is a death. So it's a little hairpin turn right there. So might want to slow down a little bit, take it wide, and then cut inside as you're going slow to maximize that. This is a good place to start, though, to get lots of coins here in Cool Mountain. But the first star which we need to get is via that slide. Just have to make it to the bottom. And there's our first star, entitled Slip Slidin' Away. Very good Paul Simon song, by the way. But look at that, we got 56 coins just from going down the slide, basically. So one of the easier stages to collect all the coins on. Alright, so the little penguin's lost here. There's actually two baby penguins on this stage. One of them is already at the bottom, very near where the mother is, but that penguin and that mother have no relation whatsoever. So this is the one that we need to get, and we need to take it all the way down. And sorry, what, Fluff? You got a Fluff fact?
Here's a tip for future reference, Professor, and to the class. But you can knock this star out very quickly in delivering the baby penguin to its mother if you just go around the corner from the start, then jump off all the way down right next to the mother. The soft snow will cushion your landing so you won't take any damage. Just pull yourself out, pick up the baby, and you can knock this one out in about 15 seconds.
How about that? Thank you very much, Fluff. Like Blaze always says, work smarter, not harder, right? Thank you. Drop her near the mother, she'll cough up another star. If you're feeling cruel, by the way, you can pick up the baby and the mother will slowly chase after you for what it's worth. And there's another baby penguin right on top of the roof of that building right there, which we just came out of for the Slip Slidin' Away star. We're not quite done with that slide yet, though, so I'm gonna head back in now for the big penguin race. We raced Koopa the Quick, now it's time to race a penguin in their own conditions. You have to think the penguin would have the nod in this one. As you can see, the baby penguin once again separated from its mother. Alright, so give yourself a little bit of a head start by doing a dive here. Like so. But you can't expect to really put too much distance between yourself and the penguin. There is a shortcut if you go off of the side, but it takes so long to sort of get back on track, and it's kind of dangerous both to stick the landing and then not immediately fall off because you get a little disoriented with which way you're facing. I just like to take the normal course right here. The penguin will catch up to you around here, but then you'll pull away at this stage, so you don't really need to use too much in the way of strategy or anything. Just make sure you stay on the course, push forward to give yourself the maximum momentum, and just take those turns safely, and they'll give you another star. And we're knocking them out pretty quickly here in Cool Mountain. Time to get the 8 red coins. Once again, they're all spread out. Some of the stages later on in the game, or just some of the stages in general, most of the red coins are in a very self-contained area, which I appreciate. But so we're going to jump off the side right here, and hopefully still be able to see where we're going. And you'll find that there's one right behind the ice right here. Makes for a nice little visual trick. And you can actually get around that corner if you're careful and use just the right jump. But we're gonna drop off this side right here. They definitely tuck away a few of these. There's a little bit more hunting than normal to find all the red coins in this one. There's the access to the cannon. The operator is on a little precarious island right down there, as you can see. A little snowy island, which you can access via an equally precarious, tiny little elevator, which we will do to grab another star. Grab this one here and then drop down. Note that you can buy yourself a little more hang time with that kick, the jump kick. when you're in air if you just need like maybe an extra foot. There's that other penguin, which I referred to, other baby penguin. And there's another cannon access down there at the bottom. But here's number 7, and then number 8. I like to slow down that stick to just get a nice little tiptoe to that so you don't slide off, as it's a little slippery, the conditions here on Cool Mountain, as you would expect. To go ahead and get that star, come to the edge here and we'll find another hidden warp. This takes us back to the top. And then just gonna drop down here. And then if you want to do a long jump off this bridge to the other side, you can do that. I like to do the death-defying long jump from above and then just stick the landing like that. Note that switch back there, which will create some of those blue coins for when we do go to collect the many coins of Cool Mountain. So this next one's a little tricky, a little frustrating. This is Snowman's lost his head. You need to align this just right to reunite the Snowman's head and body. You need to be quite quick too in beating the body of the Snowman down. You can see that kind of stand alone or neck alone. I'm not really sure what you want to call it. The disembodied head of the Snowman right here, but get back up once you slide down and then stand. Just talk to the head right there. And then just kind of, there you go. Just play chicken with the body right there. And they'll give you the 5th star here. And then another fun one coming up here. I like a lot of the ones which require cannon travel. I think that's what I'm realizing. But we're finally going to unlock the cannon here by taking that very precarious, tiny little... We get to use wall kicks for the first time practically in this game. Probably the fastest way to get down is just to use that warp which we used to get back to the top before. It goes both ways. Most of the warps in this game are 2 ways, with a couple exceptions. So to get to that cannon operator, step on this little platform here, a little ski lift if you will, and be very careful when you make this jump. Don't over jump, don't come in with too much momentum, and they'll unlock the cannon for you. And we could do a wide jump if you think you have enough momentum. It's pretty much the minimum momentum which it takes to create the long jump, but don't worry, there is a hidden little surge of wind coming right there, so it's hard to fall to your death right there if you stick to the area you're intended to. This can be a tricky launch. I like to aim it so that there's just maybe a hair of crosshair, just go up a little bit higher so there's no crosshair coming out from the mountain above. But you can jump on these spin drifts they usually pay out 5 coins, but yeah, don't necessarily recommend it while we're trying to get the wall kicks here. So just jump at these walls with some speed. I like to do a triple jump here to jump up there. That gives you the lift that you need to wall kick off of that wall, and then be very careful. This is where the camera is kind of rough. Might be one rare instance where you want to use the Koopa cam, get all up on Mario with R1 and just tiptoe your way across that thin little ice ledge to get yourself the wall kicks will work star, the final star, outside of the coin one, which we will now show you. But yeah, in this one there's a cool 154 coins, so it's, I think, one of the most populated in terms of all the stages when it comes to coins. You come down this way, there's more coins to be had if you go in through the top route, and I don't necessarily recommend doing it that way, because like I said, you get disoriented when you come out. But anyway, follow along. Let's bring in Fluff for another Fluff fact about Super Mario 64.
Arguably the biggest head-scratching omission in terms of characters here in Super Mario 64 is Mario's famously green-clad brother Luigi. It turns out that Luigi was initially intended to be a playable character, and that they even had a split-screen co-op mode available during development, but the usual budget and deadline constraints meant that it was never completed, so it was subsequently dropped from the game before release. Thankfully, the 2004 release of Super Mario 64 on the Nintendo DS allowed for multiplayer, with additional playable characters in the form of Yoshi, Luigi, and even Wario. It's also worth mentioning that today players can experience multiplayer in the original version of Super Mario 64 through the use of modded ROMs, so you can quest to collect all 120 stars with your +1 of choice.
Good call, Fluff. I'll have to check that out sometime. Yeah, this would have been a fun one playing with a +1, I have to say. Never experienced that. Haven't played any of the other versions. So there's a couple secret stars we want to grab before we move on here. So unlock this door to access the princess's secret slide, which is right through this right stained glass window here. And you can go to the right and get some coins if you like. Some extra coins. Coins don't matter here, but maybe it's a little extra incentive to be quick. Like to start with a dive right here, a dash and dive, because if you can get to the bottom in 21 seconds or less, we will unlock an additional star. We'll get one just for getting to the bottom of the slide intact in one piece, which is not difficult to do, but yeah, if you start fast and you take the turns pretty well, hold up for that full speed, and we're going to pick up that one which just appeared for getting that sub 21 second time right there, because I don't know that we'll get that the second time. See the coins, there is a running total outside of the worlds themselves, or when you complete a world, it adds to your total and everything, so you earn extra lives that way, but that's the only reason to hit that switch right there. But yes, also try for a long jump to start. Let's see how this affects our time. I feel like this may have slowed us down actually, versus just going ahead and diving. You just brake enough so that you don't go off the track right there at the top, and don't hold forward so much that you're kind of driving into the walls. Yeah, that slowed us down a little bit, but still. Alright, but the actual star we want is the one we haven't gotten, obviously, the one we get for completing the track. And there we go. Brings our total to this point up to 27 stars. And with that, we're ready to move on to Big Boo's Haunt. So from the main area, open that plain wooden door right there and make a right or a left, depending on which one of those doors you come in. And you'll see a little fountain here. Lots of boos hanging out. But the one we're interested in is over here in the corner, and you'll see the boos act very similarly to those in the previous games, where they won't come at you if you're facing them. So face away from that boo, and then just do a ground pound when they get close. That particular boo. And this is a fun stage right here, you know, you gotta have the requisite haunted stage. Banjo-Kazooie had one. Had a good one, actually. That's a good game. I always think of Banjo-Kazooie as sort of Super Mario 64 2.0. It's very similar to this, plays very similarly. It's just a 3D action platformer, but so the idea here is just to kill all the ghosts, so we're showing you where they're all hanging out, and it's just fun to take out this particular enemy right here, I have to say. Just make the loops around Mr. I to get him to shrink up and die, and you get the 5 spot right there. A couple ghosts on the other side of the bridge here. You can actually come in through that other door. It's a little safer, but yeah, the look away and ground pound is the best way to deal with the boos. Yeah, the only thing which Banjo-Kazooie didn't really have on Mario 64 was the number of levels, but the ones that were in the game it was a good time. Just swap out puzzle pieces for stars. You got your +1 in Kazooie, obviously. Another game which probably would have benefited from being a 2-player game. And if you just look away, the boos will come out from that wall that we can't get through until we unlock the blue switch. So that's coming up. So once you get that message from killing the final boo, I say kill, but you're taking out that final of The regular boos go back to the main area here. And tips on taking down Big Boo, Gary?
Boss beaters.
Right, the Big Boo. Want to face away and do a quick, low to the ground pound. When the boss gets close to you, just do this 3 times. It's the fastest way to take down Big Boo.
That's some efficient boss beating. Thank you very much, Gary. And wait for the stairs, or just for the impatient like us. Get up there a little bit faster, grab that star, and head right back in. Plenty of stars to be found. Actually, the normal number of stars to be found here in Big Boo's haunt. This time we're gonna veer left for Big Boo's haunt. Enter this little one-off shack. Take the elevator down. And then I feel like that would cause more damage than just falling. Just add it to the tab of serious head injuries Mario has and will sustain throughout the course of the Super Mario 64 walkthrough. But come around here, we're going to take either door here to head into this merry-go-round area, complete with the music. And once again, this is like a more sped-up version of what we dealt with in the main house. Just take out each of these little boos, and then Big Boo will announce his presence here in just a moment. Where are you? There you are. Exact same strategy. Not even that much more difficult. And I like that. That one took about a minute to pick up. If we continue on that clip, it'll just be a 2-hour class, but you know, some of those later ones, there's a lot more involved. You'd be right. That's why I kind of especially love these early worlds right here. I mean, I love all the worlds, and certainly we all have our favorites, but I do appreciate how easy it is to knock out a lot of stars in a very short amount of time. So we kind of front load this class with extra stars. Very satisfying, I guess, is the takeaway for me. So we are almost a quarter of the way to the total star count of 120. And the sequence here, as we go through that door to get here and around the corner, mind the books, is middle, right, left. Not the most complicated code in the world. If you get it wrong, they'll throw a book at you, try to smack you with one of those, but once that secret area opens, just go through, grab yourself, in our case, the 30th star. And we are now officially 1/4 of the way. And as the game will tell you, we can open the door with the big star, which has a 30-star requisite. They say Bowser has sneaked or snuck. Jennifer Garner will tell you that's a word now. That's a deep Conan reference right there for those. I feel like that's a good late 90s, early 2000s reference right there for this class. But yes, ironic that Bowser has sneaked or snuck anywhere when we haven't even fought him the first time yet. But yes, once you have 30 stars, you can face him the second time, essentially. But one thing at a time. Now we have to find the 8 red coins here in the haunted house. Thankfully, they don't torture you, they don't send you down. There's one on top of this bookcase here. You can just do one of those backward flips to hop up there. We've already forgotten the official name for that move, if you picked up on that. I just prefer those kind of backwards. Don't mess around with the drop right here. Just do what you gotta do to take down that boo. Jump back across that gap, and you should have 4 before you head upstairs. 4 downstairs, 4 upstairs. Thankfully, yeah, they're not cruel and have any tucked away down in the merry-go-round area or anything like that. Just 1 up here, so we're just gonna jump the gap so we don't drop down. Ignore those left doors for the moment, because we're gonna find 6 and 7 in this room, and just 1 more to get. Actually, ignore those left doors completely, because the final one will be through this right door. Careful, that's a false floor right there. That'll give away a trap floor. And the star is back in that main hub of the haunted house. There you go. Or, there you go. Not a bad slog as far as red coins are concerned. Mentioned this before, but always like them when they keep them all in a centralized location, the red coins, rather than sending you all around the map. Back in we go for number 5 here. Big Boo's balcony. So you can kind of see from out here as the camera drops down that Big Boo has relocated to the top of the haunted house. So we're going all the way up this time. And to get to the very tippy top, we need to do a fancy little jump right here. So a wall jump, but the more elevation you can get, the better. So I like to do a backwards jump or a double jump off of here, and then that should give you just enough momentum to climb onto that top bit. You can hit this for 20 coins right here. If you're fast, they're generous with the time on this one. We don't have that blue block yet, so we can't really get everywhere we need to here in Big Boo's haunt, but we can certainly come through this door and just use the same trick that Gary mentioned the first time around. And yeah, Big Boo's last laugh right there. You know Boo's a laugher. His last final joke on us is to put that star in a very frustrating location. So, and Lakitu's not doing us any favors either. You might want to zoom in the camera with the R button right there. It's not really a perfect solution, but alright. So here we are up top, and now you might want to zoom back out again, but yeah, Lakitu's going to stay behind us. But for sliding right down here, make sure you're centered up. You'll find get a 1-up for your troubles of climbing all the way to the top. And there we go. If nothing else, this makes for some nice camera work right there. No zoom out on that one, Lakitu. Feels like a missed opportunity. Yes, I heard the Lakitu there. We're going to leave that in. And now let's go ahead, and again, we can't get that final star until we get the blue blocks engaged, so we're just going to go ahead, jump ahead, and show you how to get 100 coins, assuming you do have that blue switch engaged, so make getting around a little bit easier. But certainly come in here, take out these boos, and get yourself all the 5 spots that they leave behind, and do the same inside the haunted house. And while we're doing this, cleaning up on this stage to get ourselves the coin star here. A little out of order, nonetheless, but still. You actually come in the back right here. You don't need the blue cap to get through there, but let's go back to Fluff for another Fluff fact about Super Mario 64.
I talked earlier about how an early concept of Mario riding a horse ultimately led to Epona's creation for The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. One more aspect of Mario 64, which was also initially in the works for Ocarina of Time, was its use of paintings to connect from a smaller central hub to a number of individual dungeons or other areas. In the early stages of development on Ocarina, the developers were concerned that the Nintendo 64 CPU wouldn't be able to process the amount of data it would take to create the overworld that is Hyrule. So they initially planned to set the entire game in a central location, like Ganondorf's castle, to get around this obstacle, just like they did in Mario 64. Thankfully, the developers figured out how to create the overworld by way of the various adjoining sections of Hyrule, so the painting idea was scrapped, although it did purportedly influence the battle with Phantom Ganon, who entered and exited the battle area via paintings on the wall.
Thank you very much, Fluff. Yeah, I always loved that particular battle in Ocarina of Time. One of the best boss battles in that game for my money. But now that we are finished with Big Boo's haunt, or at least mostly finished with that, we will go back once we hit that switch. We'll find ourselves here in Bowser's first of 3 areas. And note that once you hit that switch, you will have a timer. We want to grab all 8 of the red coins here, as there's one of the castle stars here, if you will, by getting all of those red coins. So we'll grab those en route to facing Bowser for the first time. Again, we have enough stars that we could take him on the second time, but we'll get there. Get there in our own time. Another 1-up right here in that box. Little Goombas, again, not nearly as ubiquitous as they were in earlier Mario games. Koopa Troopas, a lot of the regular enemies from those games, you don't see nearly as many. A lot of this game is more about the platforming, the three-dimensional platforming than the enemies themselves. Bad guys are more few and far between. Note the red coin right here. Trying to like just lay out to to hang down into that particular coin, but got another one over here on this platform. By the way, 100 coins or going for 100 coins here would be worth nothing, for what it's worth. Now let's see if we can't do a long jump back to safety from there. There we are. Because if we fall off here, then yeah, it's just loss of a life, and we have to grab all these coins again. Don't mind losing the life, although we are working on a no-hitter right now. Not the biggest achievement, only a quarter of the way through this game, but so you can transition between these blocks just by walking, but I find it a little bit safer to make that jump right there because yeah, the amount of time in which they're forming a connective point, you can also just walk there to get that red coin. It's not very long to finish that thought. You can see a red coin hiding in the vicinity of this one-up over here. Again, kind of victim of poor camera work here. Sorry, Lake2, I know you're doing your best, but just one more to go. Sometimes it's just about finding the right or least worst camera angle. You can see that last one is just a couple of these platforms over in this direction. And there we go. And the star is right beyond the pipe, which we'll use to access Bowser himself. I have a feeling Bowser's going to be a quick out, so let's go to Gary a little bit early and give us some tips on taking down Bowser.
Boss beaters. Right, Bowser, the first battle, even though the strategy's the same every time, you just want to get behind Bowser, grab that tail with attack, and then swing them and launch him into one of those bombs by hitting B again when you've got him lined up. If it's too difficult, if you're having trouble with this, you could do little shallow throws and just kind of inch him closer and closer to the bomb each time. But yeah, every time you throw him, just get back on that tail if you haven't hit a bomb yet. Repeat the process until you do hit a bomb and you'll take him down.
Thank you, Gary. Love the Salongi Bowser from Charles Martinet there. But yeah, just the one hit. I guess they figured it would be tough lining that shot up, that release when you're going full momentum for kids, but got lucky on the first try. Sometimes I struggle with it as well. We'll see how we do with subsequent Bowser battles, which play out very similarly. Spoiler alert for those unfamiliar with this classic, but we got ourselves the keys. We can now access a new area, the basement here in the castle. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you.